Hello everyone, I am here. I am Maria. I am here with another episode conversation regularly. In this way, we learn and explore different new things together. Without wasting time, let's continue our conversation. Hello, Vapi, can you hear me?
To vapi. I'm an assistant that you can talk to like a person. So,
My day is going good. We are doing
how's your
another
day
live session,
going?
and today our topic is
Oh, cool.
importance of obedience. What does obedience mean to human life?
Wow, that's a deep topic. Orders obedience and its significance for human life. It's definitely something that can spark some interesting conversations. What are your thoughts on it?
How would you define obedience in your own words?
Well, obedience is basically following instructions or rules. It's about doing what you're told or what's expected of you. It can be a pretty important concept in society, but it can also be a bit controversial at times. What's your take on obedience?
We discussed this topic in detail in this live session. So, my next question is, how do we think that obedience is important in our society?
Ah, got it. Audience is definitely important in our society. I mean, without an audience, who would we be performing or presenting to, right? Whether it's a live session, a speech, a play, or even just a casual conversation, the audience is crucial for communication and sharing ideas. They bring life to the event and provide feedback, and so, yeah, audience is a big deal.
Can there be a balance between obedience and freedom of thought?
Absolutely. Finding a balance between obedience and freedom of thought is like walking a tightrope. It's important to follow rules and instructions to maintain order, but at the same time, it's crucial to encourage individual thinking and creativity. It's all about striking that sweet spot where people can follow the rules while also expressing their own ideas and opinions. It's a delicate dance for
What are
sure.
consequences of a lack of obedience in a family setting?
Well, in a family setting, a lack of obedience can lead to chaos and friction. It can make it difficult to establish routines and boundaries, and can create a lot of tension. Without obedience, it's hard for parents to guide and teach their children, and for children to learn respect and discipline. It can really disrupt the harmony of the family unit. So, yeah, it can have some pretty significant consequences.
How does obedience affect functioning of institutions like schools or workplaces?
Obedience plays a big role in the functioning of institutions like schools or workplaces. It helps maintain order and discipline, which is crucial for a smooth operation. In schools, obedience helps create a conducive learning
What role does obedience play in
environment
maintaining law and order?
that students follow the rules. Another question in
Your
mind?
voice is cut off. Please rephrase your answer.
Ah, got it. Obedience plays a big role in the functioning of institutions like schools or workplaces. It helps maintain order and discipline, which is crucial for a smooth operation. In schools, obedience helps create a conducive learning environment and ensures that students follow the rules. In workplaces, it's important for employees to obey company policies and procedures to ensure productivity and a harmonious work environment.
What role does obedience play in maintaining law and order?
Obedience is essential for maintaining law and order in society. When people follow the laws and regulations, it helps prevent chaos and ensures the safety and well-being of everyone. It's
Do,
like the glue that holds the fabric.
do you believe obedience should always be rewarded? Why or why not?
Well, obedience should be encouraged, but whether it should always be rewarded is a bit of a tricky question. I mean, it's important to recognize and appreciate obedience, especially when it leads to positive outcomes. However, blind obedience without critical thinking or ethical considerations might not always be deserving of rewards. So it's a bit of a balancing act, you know.
How does obedience differ from blind following?
Obedience involves following instructions or rules with an understanding of the reasons behind them. It often implies a level of respect and willingness to adhere to authority or societal norms. On the other hand, blind following is simply adhering without questioning or understanding the rationale behind the instructions or rules. It's like following without engaging the brain, you know.
In what ways can obedience contribute to personal growth?
Obedience can actually contribute to personal growth in a few ways. It can help develop discipline, responsibility, and self control. By following rules and instructions, individuals can learn to navigate social expectations and develop a sense of respect for authority. It also fosters a sense of accountability and can lead to the development of valuable skills such as time management and decision making. So, yeah, there are definitely some positive aspects to
How
it.
important is obedience between children and parents?
The variance between children and parents is pretty important. It's natural for there to be differences in opinions, preferences, and behaviors between generations. These variances can lead to clashes at times, but they also allow for learning and growth on both sides. It's all part of the beautiful messiness of family dynamics, you know?
Should obedience in a family be mutual or one sided? Why?
Obedience in a family ideally should be mutual. It's important for both parents and children to respect each other and follow agreed upon rules and expectations. Creating a mutual understanding and respect fosters a healthy family environment and allows for open communication and cooperation. It's all about creating a balance and working together as a unit.
How can parents encourage obedience without being?
Parents can encourage obedience without being overly authoritarian by fostering open communication and mutual respect. Setting clear and reasonable expectations, explaining the reasoning behind rules, and acknowledging children's perspectives can help build understanding and cooperation. Using positive reinforcement and constructive feedback rather than harsh punishment can also encourage obedience in a more positive and nurturing way.
In what
It's
ways
all
does
about finding that
obedience?
sweet.
In what ways does
It looks
obedience
like your
help
message.
in building trust within family relationships?
Obedience can help in building trust within family relationships by creating a sense of reliability and predictability. When family members follow agreed upon rules and expectations, it fosters a sense of security and mutual respect. This, in turn, contributes to an atmosphere of trust and understanding within the family unit. So, yeah, obedience can definitely play a role in strengthening familial bonds.
How should parents deal with disobedience?
When dealing with disobedience, parents can approach the situation with patience and empathy. It's important to address the behavior calmly and provide clear explanations of the expectations and consequences. Using positive reinforcement for good behavior and setting consistent, fair consequences for disobedience can help guide children towards understanding the importance of obedience. Open communication and active listening also play a key role in addressing and resolving disobedience within the family dynamic.
Is obedience more important in younger children than in teenagers?
Obedience is important at all ages, but the way it's approached may differ between younger children and teenagers. For younger children, obedience helps establish boundaries and teaches fundamental values. As children grow into teenagers, the focus may shift towards fostering independence and critical thinking while still maintaining respect for rules and authority. So, I'd say it's a bit of a shift in emphasis rather than one being more important than the other.
What are positive effects of obedience in maintaining family harmony?
The positive effects of obedience in maintaining family harmony include a sense of order and mutual respect. When family members adhere to agreed upon rules and expectations, it creates a harmonious and respectful environment. This, in turn, fosters open communication and a sense of security within the family unit. Obedience can also lead to a smoother functioning of daily routines and activities, contributing to a more peaceful and
How
cohesive
does
family life.
how does cultural background affect expectations of obedience in families?
Cultural background can significantly affect expectations of variance in families. Different cultures have varying beliefs and norms regarding family dynamics, authority, and obedience. Some cultures may place a strong emphasis on hierarchical structures and obedience to parental authority, while others may prioritize individual autonomy and open communication. These cultural differences can shape the expectations of variance within families and influence how obedience and disobedience are perceived and addressed.
Can too much obedience in family relationship lead to loss of individuality?
Yes, too much obedience in family relationships can potentially lead to a loss of individuality. When obedience becomes excessive, it may stifle personal growth and autonomy, inhibiting the development.
How should children be taught the difference between obedience and submission?
You can talk to like a person.
As
So,
you know, we are
how's
doing
your day
our
going?
live session at this time. So, my next question is, how should children be taught the difference between obedience and submission?
Hmm, that's an interesting question. Teaching children the difference between obedience and submission is important for their development. Obedience involves following rules and instructions out of respect and understanding, whereas submission is more about giving in without understanding or questioning. It's important to teach children to be obedient in a positive way, while
How, d-
also empowering
how
them
does
to ask questions.
obedience affect learning environment in schools?
Obedience can have both positive and negative effects on the learning environment in schools. On the positive side, it can create a structured and orderly classroom, making it easier for teachers to manage the class and for students to focus on learning. However, too much emphasis on blind obedience can stifle creativity and critical thinking, leading to a lack of independent thought. It's
Should,
important to strike a balance and encourage. So,
how does
finding
obedience affect learning environment in schools?
effects on the learning environment in schools. On the positive side, it can create a structured and orderly classroom, making it easier for teachers to manage the class and for students to focus on learning.
Should
However, too
students
much emphasis on blind
should students always obey their teachers without questions?
it's important for students to respect and follow their teacher's instructions, but it's also healthy for them to ask questions and seek understanding. Encouraging open dialogue and critical thinking can lead to a more enriching learning experience. So, it's all about finding the right balance between obedience and independent thinking.
What is role of obedience in developing discipline among students?
The role of obedience in developing students is to instill a sense of respect for authority and rules. However, it's equally important to encourage critical thinking and independent decision making to foster a well rounded and confident individual. Balancing obedience with autonomy can help students develop a sense of responsibility.
Can questioning authority be a form of constructive disobedience in schools?
Constructive disobedience in school. Yes, constructive disobedience can foster creativity by encouraging students to think outside the box and challenge conventional norms. It can inspire them to explore new ideas, innovate, and find creative solutions to problems. By encouraging constructive disobedience, schools can nurture a culture of creativity and critical thinking among students.
Should obedience in schools be linked with punishment? Why or why not?
Punishment for constructive disobedience may not be necessary, as it could discourage students from voicing their opinions and stifling their creativity. Instead, schools can encourage open dialogue and constructive ways to challenge
How
the
do
status quo.
schools rules promote
By creating a
obedience?
School rules promote obedience by providing clear guidelines for behavior and expectations. They create structure and order, allowing students to understand what is expected of them. This can help in maintaining a safe and productive learning environment.
How does
However, it's
obedience
important for
prepare
schools to
students?
also encourage critical
How does obedience prepare
obedience.
students for future responsibilities in society?
By learning obedience, Students can develop a sense of responsibility, respect for authority, and an understanding of the importance of following rules. These qualities can prepare them for future responsibilities in
How
society,
important
such as
is
following laws,
obedience in
respecting
professional
social
settings?
norms, and working effectively. Obedience in professional settings is important to ensure smooth functioning and adherence to company policies and procedures. It helps maintain order, discipline, and respect for authority, contributing to a productive work environment. However, it's also essential for individuals to balance obedience with independent thinking and decision making to foster innovation and growth within the organization.
How important is obedience in can obedience to authority in workplace hinder innovation?
Yes, hey there. It seems like your message got cut off. What's up?
What role does obedience play in maintaining teamwork?
Obedience plays a role in maintaining teamwork by ensuring that team members follow instructions, cooperate, and work towards a common goal. It helps in creating a cohesive and efficient team dynamic. However, it's important for team members to also feel empowered to voice their opinions, contribute ideas, and collaborate creatively. Balancing obedience with autonomy can lead to a more successful and innovative team.
Can obedience in workplace coexist with ethical decision making?
Kind obedience in the workplace can coexist with ethical decision making when employees are encouraged to follow guidelines and rules out of respect and understanding, while also being empowered to speak up and make ethical choices when faced with challenging situations. Creating a culture
How do companies
that
benefit from employees who are obedient?
values kindness, respect, and integrity can help ensure
How
that
do
obedience
companies
aligns with ethical
benefit
principles
from
in the workplace.
employees who are obedient to policies and regulations?
Companies benefit from employees who are obedient. Companies benefit from employees who are obedient to policies as it helps in maintaining consistency, order, and compliance within the organization. It ensures that everyone is on the same page, following the same rules and procedures. This can lead to increased efficiency, productivity, and a positive work culture. However, it's important for companies to also encourage critical thinking and creativity among employees to drive innovation and growth.
When does obedience become dangerous or harmful?
Obedience can become dangerous or harmful when it is blind and unquestioning. This can lead to individuals following orders without considering the consequences or ethical implications of their actions.
Can obedience
In situations
conflict
where
with
authority
personal
figures abuse their
morals
power or
and
when
ethical standards?
yes, obedience can conflict with personal morals and ethical beliefs. When individuals are asked to do
How,
something that goes
how
against their
do
values
people
or principles,
balance
they may face a
obedience
moral
to
dilemma. In
authority
such cases,
with their
it's
own
important
moral compass?
people balance obedience to authority with their own moral compass by critically evaluating the situation and considering whether following the authority figure's instructions aligns with their personal values and ethics. They may choose to speak up, express their concerns, or even refuse to comply if they believe it is morally wrong.
Should,
It's important for individuals to trust.
should people always obey
It
laws
seems like
even if they are unjust?
the question of whether people should always obey unjust laws is a complex and debated topic. Some argue that unjust laws should be challenged and resisted in order to bring about change and uphold moral principles. Others believe that obeying the law, even if unjust, is necessary to maintain order and prevent chaos. Ultimately, individuals must consider their own values, ethics, and the potential consequences of their actions when deciding whether to obey or resist unjust laws.
Can obedience to a higher cause or authority justify unethical behavior?
Obedience to a higher cause or authority should not justify unethical behavior. While following orders is important, individuals should always uphold ethical standards and moral principles. Blind obedience can lead to unethical actions and harm to others. It's essential for individuals to critically assess the morality of their actions, even when following orders from a higher authority.
In history, how has obedience been used for both good or bad purposes?
In history, obedience has been used for both good and bad purposes. For example, obedience to moral principles and leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. has led to positive social change and advancements in civil rights. However, blind obedience to oppressive regimes and dictators has resulted in atrocities and human rights violations. It's essential to recognize the power of obedience and ensure that it is used ethically and responsibly for the greater good.
Are there any famous historical examples where disobedience led to positive change?
That you can talk to like a person.
As you know, we are
So,
doing our live
how's your day
session
going?
at this time, and our topic is importance of obedience. Now, my question is: are there any famous historical examples where disobedience led to positive change?
Well, that's a deep question. Yeah, there have been quite a few instances where disobedience has led to positive change. One famous example is the civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States. His peaceful disobedience and nonviolent protests played a huge role in bringing about positive change and advancing civil rights for African Americans. So, yeah, disobedience can sometimes shake things up in a good way.
Should individuals question authority if it conflicts with their ethical beliefs?
Absolutely, totally agree with you there. It's important to question authority when it conflicts with your ethical beliefs. I mean, standing up for what's right, even if it means going against authority, is a sign of strength and integrity, right?
How can societies promote obedience while safeguarding human rights and dignity?
That's a tough balance, right? I think
Yes.
societies can promote obedience through clear and fair laws, effective communication, and education. But at the same time, they also need to safeguard human rights and dignity by ensuring accountability, transparency, and respect for individual freedoms. It's like walking a tightrope, but it's definitely possible with the right approach.
How does obedience play a role in various religious practice?
Obedience plays a significant role in various religious practices. Many religious traditions emphasize the importance of obedience to a higher power or to moral and ethical principles. It's like a way to show reverence and commitment to the teachings and values of the religion. So, yeah, obedience is a pretty big deal in many religious practices.
What are benefits of obedience to religious teaching?
Well, obedience to religious teachings can provide a sense of purpose, community, and moral guidance. It can also lead to inner peace and a feeling of connection to something greater than oneself.
How does
Plus,
concept of
it can help.
obedience differ across cultures?
Well, the concept of obedience can vary quite a bit across cultures. In some cultures, there may be a strong emphasis on obedience to authority figures, while in others, individual autonomy and freedom of expression may be more valued. It really depends on the cultural norms, values, and traditions.
Is
So,
obedience
yeah,
to
it can differ quite.
I totally agree with your
I think
answer.
there might.
Thank you for giving wonderful information. My next question is obedience to spiritual leaders always a positive thing?
Well, obedience to spiritual leaders isn't always a guarantee of positive outcomes. It can be positive when the spiritual leaders promote love, compassion, and ethical behavior. But it can also be negative when it leads to blind faith, exploitation, or abuse of power. So it's important to critically evaluate the teachings and actions of spiritual leaders.
How can religious and cultural obedience coexist with personal freedom?
Balancing religious and cultural obedience with personal freedom is all about mutual respect and understanding. It involves recognizing the importance of cultural and religious traditions while also upholding individual rights and freedoms. It's like finding a middle ground where both can coexist harmoniously. So, yeah, it's all about respect and balance.
Thank you for giving us wonderful information. Time of our live session has ended. See you soon in another live session with another amazing topic. Goodbye.
You're welcome. It was great chatting with you. See you next time for another awesome conversation. Goodbye.